What is the role of men in modern society? Are they still providers? Are they still the head? Are they still offering security? Has the roles shifted? Is the modern man consuming and excreting too much estrogen? International Men's Day was celebrated. I don't know if majority of men acknowledge or are even aware of the day designated to them. This event was on November 19th. It's a worldwide celebration to highlight the positive value men bring to the world, their families, and communities. Now, considering the current condition of our economy and our communities to be exact, I would say that much has gone to the wayside and has been completely obliterated. There is no longer any values embedded for the youth to emulate. Once upon a time, man stood for something and we're fighting for something. The fight is still on, but to what purpose? Recent gender ratio has men at 50.42% of the population. To be a little bit more concise, it's 101 men to 100 women. So we're basically having a 50-50 ratio. Now, I grew up hearing that men have to have more than one woman because there isn't enough men for women. I guess this settles the scores then. Men no longer have an excuse to have more than one woman, right? All thoughts aside, society, the norms, the morals, the values have significantly deteriorated. And I give the blame to both sexes. However, the blunt of it must be held by the men. Why? Men hold the more dominant decision making positions. Research shows that in general, men have an advantage over women in the labor market. Men tend to have higher wages and reach authority positions to a greater extent compared to women. Obviously, the decisions being made have not been in line to gear society on a socially acceptable path. Take crime and violence, for example. This is men dominated. Statistics have been consistent in reporting that men commit more criminal acts than women. And self reported delinquent acts are also higher for men than for women. If this is what research is showing, then something needs to change. And it would imply that the men are failing terribly in their senior and powers of authority, as the results are not in line with fostering children to have the best morals and values. I would then ask the question, why celebrate the men if our current situation in society shows a drastic decline when it's the men who hold the powers of law and other authoritative rule? If we are to celebrate the men, let us do so on the basis of them doing an exceptional job. Let's use the first highlight, a fatherless nation. 47% of children in Jamaica live in a single parent home with their biological mother. And in the US, it's 1 out of 4 children who are living without a father. Now, our current culture has the man as the breadwinner. And he has been using this as a manipulation tool against the woman. simply because he claims that she is using sex to manipulate him. From my personal vantage point, this entire system of living is built on an exchange of goods and services, or for a better term, intercourse. I don't agree that a woman can use sex as a manipulation tool against a man. Is it that sex has become such a dire need for man that without it he cannot survive? I see no one surviving without money. So, yes, for money, I would agree that it can be used as a manipulation tool. Here is the balance I would offer. If she is given the man sex in exchange for money, what would be wrong with the man honoring that if that is what is agreed to? You can't go to the local supermarket without money to make a purchase. And you won't even be able to negotiate the price of the goods that you would want to get. It's going to be a take it or leave it scenario. We also would highlight abortion, which is the number one killer currently. According to WHO, some 22,000 pregnancies are aborted annually in Jamaica. And of course, our very close neighboring country states. In 2020, according to the Guttmacher data, 930,160 abortions took place in the United States. Now, women are paying a very, very high price for opening their legs to welcome and comfort the man in need. If we add just these two countries, the United States and Jamaica, for 1 year together, that's almost 1 million kids who would be added to the list of fatherless children. I would agree. Women do get to opt out, though, but it comes at a significant cost to her purse, her health, and her life. Men, on the other hand, don't get to opt out. That I understand. However, if they did, would it be at the same cost? Life, health, and money. Because even if the man does give money for the procedure, whose life and health will be at stake? Certainly not his. What burden will he have to bear for the rest of his life? None, I presume. He will simply go on to live his life with far less consequences than the woman. As the men are being celebrated, we must take all things into consideration. Crime and violence is a pandemic. Fatherless children is a pandemic. Poverty is a pandemic. All contributing factors to bad leadership and bad decision making. Nonetheless, all must be held accountable and take responsibility for the actions. The burden cannot be left on one individual or one sex alone at all times. We would note that women by nature are not meant for the front line. Yet, they have been taking bullets on behalf of the men who refuse to stand up and take responsibility. The modern man would rather play video games and watch a football match than spend time with his kids. The modern man would rather go on an expensive journey to an expensive party, buy the latest, most expensive shoes and phone, rather than contribute financially to his kids' stability. The modern man would rather go and flaunt his money rather than utilize that for the welfare of his child. The modern man would rather sit and bash the woman for not cooking and cleaning while he's failing to provide and give his family the required level of security. The modern man, comfortable in his job, well paid, would rather flaunt his ego in the woman's face. Then, when she takes the bait and submits to his flaunting, he degrades her and refers to her as a gold digger. However, she wouldn't have noticed his gold if he didn't put it on the spotlight. Jump into a lion's den wrapped in raw meat, then thank the lions for not devouring you. I do applaud the men who are trying and doing. I applaud the men who know their value and are willing to find a woman whom they will allow to share and assist in building a legacy without condemnation. I applaud those men who know and understand feminism and haven't become a bandwagon extremist on the subject. I applaud the men who foster and groom the youth to higher heights, regardless of being a biological father. I do also applaud the men who understand that the woman gives birth to the child, but it is not within her power to groom him into a man. Men, you are celebrated with consideration that more must be done to garner a better future for the generations coming. And know that it's not going to take feminine against masculine, but unity and balance of both energies to cultivate the soil and plant the seeds needed for a flourishing and prosperous society.